Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you too. And you all the way over there. Hey guys, how's it Dude, I can't lock in for like 2 seconds. Okay. Hey guys, how's it going? It's around that time where temperatures are starting to drop. The new year is fast approaching and everybody that listens to music is doing the exact same thing over the next 2 weeks. Listing their favorite albums. This is every music listener's time to shine, a chance to show everyone else the music that they really enjoyed and had fun listening to this year. Or a chance to pick a bunch of random albums that people keep talking about and pretend. Either one works. I usually take part in this tradition as a casual, but last year when I started the channel, I got the chance to actually make my list and broadcast it. Was it terrifying? Absolutely, but it was also just really fun. Most of the videos on my channel are in like an analysis format, and that takes a lot of research to produce, so crazy stuff like that. Whereas this time of year, I can just tell you guys what I've appreciated listening to this year and ask you guys for your favorites as well. And that's what the Henry Loves Music Awards is all about. Today we're talking about albums, next week we're gonna talk about songs, but either way, glad you're here. But before we get into the actual ranking, we need to set some ground rules, and also just like some PSAs. That aren't really rules. You'll see what I mean. No two albums on this list will be by the same artist. The cap is one album per artist. There's a lot of artists that release 2-3 albums this year, or even release some stuff under a side project. So we're taking it all out, only one album per artist. That's actually the only rule, I think. The rest are just PSAs. New to this year, I have 6 different awards to give across different categories that aren't just albums or songs. I'll be giving them out periodically through this video when they become relevant, just in places where I feel like it's right. And to make it fair, 3 will be distributed in this video, and 3 will be distributed in the next one. Because of the sheer volume of releases this year, this list is so much more of a cutthroat battle than it was last year. So just because an album is lower on the list doesn't mean it's a bad album. Again, these are my favorite albums from this year. And even if they're not in the top 10, there's still some amazing albums that came out this year that there's just so much good music that dropped this year. I didn't listen to every single album that came out this year. It should come at no surprise that I didn't listen to every single album that dropped this year, but I think this year, especially compared to last year, I took much more of a quality over quantity approach to what I listened to this year. That's not to say that every album I didn't listen to is bad or that I intentionally steered myself away from some artists, even though I did. But for good reasons. But more importantly, I focused on what I personally was gravitated towards with my music taste and just what I was seeing in the community. Whether that was an artist making crazy moves, whether I had heard a snippet that sounded really good, just really focusing on what I thought sounded good and not forcing myself to listen to an album. I think mindset is really important when you listen to music, and if you're forcing yourself to listen to something, you're probably not going to like it as much as you would have if you just listened to it naturally. That's all for that tangent though. So if you don't see your favorite album on this list or you feel like I didn't listen to something, please point it out in the comments. I will listen to it eventually. But without further ado, my name is Henry. I love music. This is where I talk about it. Thank you guys so much for the incredible year that 2025 has been. I'll get much more sappy later in the video, but just for now, thank you so much. Let's get into the ranking. To get the ball rolling and to start it off, at number 10, I have Speedo by Dana and Alden. If you're a longtime fan of the channel, you'll know that I've been a fan of this jazz group for the longest time. They were the topic of one of my first videos. I got to interview them earlier this year. I just think their music is so amazing. I got to hear some of Speedo before it released while they opened for Remy Wolf on tour, and I knew right there, even before the album dropped, that I was just so excited for what this was going to be. And I was not disappointed. I'm such a huge jazz fan, and the way this group takes their approach to the genre is just so amazing. The drums and the saxophone, the main 2 instruments for the brothers, always come out sounding amazing. It's just such a pleasure to listen to. Each song has its own story, even if there are no words. It's just such a beautiful album to listen to, especially when you're out and about. And a little shameless plug, like I said, I did interview them earlier this year. If you want to hear them talk a little bit more about the album. Sorry, can't promise I won't plug my other videos like a few times in this one. Let's keep going. At number 9, I have A Spyglass to One's Face by Young Morpheus and Dirty Art Club. Oh, this one hurt to put at number 9. This just goes to show how good the albums that came out this year were. I love this album so much. In my opinion, Young Morpheus is one of the most underrated rappers of all time. He's an amazing artist. His flow and his lyricism are so good, and his tone of voice, it's hard to describe, but it's just very captivating. How he frames what he says and the subjects that he talks about in the way that he says them is very entrancing. It's very much like a story that you just need to hear more of. You can't stop listening to it. And that style of rap was just that much more complemented by the production Dirty Art Club provided on this album. The jazz, soul, and R&B samples that Dirty Art Club picked for this album complement Young Morpheus so well. It makes for a beautiful listening experience. The beats are like, not creepy, but like foreboding at times. That's the right word. Parts of the album kind of feel like you're around a campfire telling ghost stories, and the beats like what you would imagine playing over those stories as you were listening to them. Does that make sense? I don't really care. Also, shout out to the album cover, dude. I'm such a fan of hand-painted album covers, and this one is just so beautiful to look at. I can't remember the artist name on the top of my head, but I'll put it on screen. Their work is really, really, really good. You should check it out. And you should also check out this album, but we gotta keep going. At number 8, I have Never Enough by Turnstile. To be completely honest with you, I'm not the biggest hardcore fan, especially before this year. I think the last time I listened to a lot of hardcore music before this year was in middle school because I had a friend that really liked Avenged Sevenfold. But I kept seeing all of the praise and all of the stuff that was being said about this album, and while that's not usually enough to draw me into it, I remember I kept seeing this one ad on Instagram for their tour, and I remember the song playing behind it was like, that's what drew me in. I think it was Birds. I can't remember though. But this album is amazing. It was a beautiful reintroduction to hardcore for me personally, but it was also just an insane album to listen to. The emotions are kind of all over the place. It's not always just like jumping up and down, headbanging. There are really intimate and personal moments on this album, and especially the vocals from Brendan Yates. Oh my goodness, like everyone in that band complements each other so well. But what really cemented them being in my top 10 was seeing them live. After hearing these songs in person, being in this crowd of people all there for the same reason, just absolutely going crazy, so good. It made this album so much more important to me and solidified why it's on this list. If you're not really a fan of hardcore, I beg you, please listen to this album. It will get you into hardcore. And if you saw them on tour, you were truly blessed. It was such an amazing experience. But again, me gushing about how good this album was and it only being number 8 on this list shows the magnitude of the releases from this year. So let's keep going. At number 7, I have Getting Killed by Geese. This one was a no-brainer pick for me. I knew from just the first listen that this album was going to be in my rotation a lot, and just that I would be a huge fan of what would come from Geese. I hadn't really listened to Geese before this, but after Cameron Winter's solo album and how much I loved that one, I was really excited for this release. And I mean, you can see the widespread appeal of not only just this album, but of Geese that was brought upon from this album. Performing in the middle of the street in New York, performing in Camp Flog Gnaw, having artists of all these different mainstream calibers talk about their album. Again, those things don't automatically make the music good, but listening through this album, you can see why all of this stuff happened. Especially Alpay's Do Cocaine Dude. That song is so beautiful. If you haven't listened to this album yet because you feel like it's overhyped, or you just haven't gotten around to it, this is definitely a really good listen, especially like I said, if you enjoyed Cameron Winter's solo project, Heavy Metal. What a year it's been for Geese, but let's move on to number 6. At number 6, I have Choke Enough by OK Lou. I feel like this one and the Geese album are going to get the most backlash for not being higher on this list. Both of these are a lot of people's albums of the year that I've been seeing, so I'm really interested to see what the comments are going to be. OK Lou was another artist that I wasn't really tapped into before this year, and so when I saw this album, I more listened to it just because she looks like Laura Croft on the cover of it. And I thought that was cool, and then I started seeing more of my friends talk about it, so I did listen to it, and it's one of the most unique albums I've heard this year. The production is so dreamy and so like fantasy sounding. The way I've described it to other people is, imagine you're playing like a PlayStation or PS2 game in a dream. That's kind of what the album's production sounds like. It's very electronic, but when the real instruments are present and do come in, they're very echoey and sound like distant almost, which I think is really cool. And also, OK Lou's vocals on this are amazing. And not only was she amazing on the album, I don't know if it was during the production of the album, but especially like a lot of the post-release from this album, she was pregnant with her child. Doing all this while carrying a child and being able to like not only like play shows and like promote, but just like all of the stuff that goes with it and have this beautiful piece of art to show everybody. That's just crazy. Like I don't know how she did it. Plus, I also really liked the Blade and Underscores feature. I saw a lot of people hating on the Blade feature on Take Me by the Hand. I don't know why people are hating on my Swedish Prince, Let's stop that. All right, now that we've gotten past 10 through 6, I want to introduce the titles of the awards that I'm going to be showing today, and I will give you the winner for one of them right now. In this episode, I'm presenting the Most Consistent Artist Award, the Best Live Performance Award, and the Best Physical Release Award. And to start it off, let's go Most Consistent Artist. This is an artist that's been grinding all year, releasing crazy amounts of music, going on tours, playing shows, but the quality of the music hasn't suffered at all. They've been making a huge name for themselves this year, and the music that's been released by them has just like increased that tenfold. So with that being said, the winner of the Most Consistent Artist Award is Lareezy. The amount of music Lareezy has dropped this year on its own is so insane, but all of that being released and the quality being as good as it is just incredible. It's amazing. Lareezy is 21, and you can really tell that he wants to be someone. He wants to prove himself as a staple in hip-hop, in rap, or just in music in general. Multiple EPs, multiple albums, a tour opening for Little Simz, playing Camp Flog Gnaw. This dude was literally everywhere. And he also stopped on the Henry Loves Music channel, so go watch that interview if you're interested. I told you that wouldn't be the last time I self-promoted in this video. With that being said, Lareezy's proved himself as a juggernaut in music, and his album that he's releasing next year, from what he told me, it's going to be the best thing he's ever released, so I'm hugely excited to see that. These next two awards, I have opportunities to present them as I talk about the next few albums, so just keep these in the back of your mind. But going back to the list, at number 5, I have Live, Laugh, Love by Earl Sweatshirt. I think one of my favorite things about this album is that Earl turned Live, Laugh, Love from like a very cringy Facebook mom post saying that like no one said to making it cool, and that just speaks to the power of Earl Sweatshirt. The Earl Sweatshirt we're listening to now is the same one we've been listening to 10 plus years ago, but you can truly see the artistic growth and just growth as a person in these songs. He has a family now, he's overcome a lot of personal struggles, and this album just seethes in pure accomplishment. There's tangible joy that you can feel in these tracks, and even in tracks where he's not rapping about something like super upbeat, it's still very interesting to listen to. It's almost like you're being given advice. I'm also just a really big fan of the vibes that this album brought out. The lead up and rollout of this album painted it as like a family cookout, like just a gathering of people that you love, a celebration of living, laughing, and loving. And that's exactly what this album brought. And that's exactly what the tour for this album brought as well. And that brings me into the Best Live Performance Award. The winner is Earl Sweatshirt with the 3L World Tour. This tour felt a lot less like a professional music tour and much more like a bunch of friends piling into a tour bus and playing at wherever they wanted to. I saw them in Dallas, where Mavi was also added to the list of openers, and it was just such an amazing show. Everyone was on stage at the same time. They were all hyping each other up. They were all like tagging each other in to perform the songs that they were featured on. And you could just tell everyone was having fun. At some point, Z Loopers made these two people do a dance battle in the middle of the pit, just like randomly during a song. And they were all talking to different people in the crowd throughout the show. It was just so good. The vibes were immaculate. That was 100% my favorite show that I went to this year, and that is just a product of the vibes brought from this album. Live, Laugh, Love is amazing, but we got to keep going. At number 4, I have Willoughby Tucker, I'll Always Love You by Ethel Cain. Ethel Cain is an amazing artist. Her ability to build this world that she's been singing about for the last few years is truly incredible. The characters that she creates and the stories that she attaches to them, she's able to convey so well through her music. But on top of that, the tracks just sound so good. The sounds of this album are all over the place, whether you're taking inspirations from grunge, rock, or pop, or ambient, or noise, or literally just like, there's so many different feelings and sounds on this project, and they all work to their intended purpose. They all bring about the exact emotion that's being conveyed in that point in the story. This album was so good that I was able to make a 45-minute analysis of it, which is something that is very difficult to do for a lot of albums. There was so much lore and story elements to break down in each second of that album that I just couldn't help but sit down and talk about it. The mind of Ethel Cain, I don't think is something people will ever truly understand, but I think with this album, if you sit and think about it enough, you can get pretty close. It's such a beautiful project. Definitely go listen to it if you haven't already. All right, before we get to the top 3, I think now is an important time to throw out some honorable mentions, because like I said, there's so much good music that released this year, it's really hard to confine them into a top 10 list. So here's some albums that I listened to that I really enjoyed but just aren't on this list. The Pilot by Mavi, while technically being a mixtape, was a really enjoyable listen. It's such a nice teaser for what we're going to see from Mavi in the future, and it also has a Mavi and Mike song, something I've been wanting for a very long time. That's a really good one. 9 Million by 9 Million was a great introductory album to the rock shoegaze group that 9 Million is. It's headed by Matthew Tomasi, who is Ethel Cain's guitarist, which is how I found out about them first, but I listened to their whole album and it's really good. If you're a fan of bands like Title Fight and Narrowhead, I really recommend this album. It's really good. I Can See the Future by Leith Ross was a really enjoyable listen. I really like the folky, lyrical melodies that they bring to that album, and it was also really good to see live. That one's really good. Sankofa by Red Veil was probably the hardest album to keep off of this list. It's so good. Red Veil is such an amazing person and artist, and that just seethes through the entire album. The lyrics and the production are just amazing. It was really hard to keep that one off this list. Please go listen to it. Beloved by Giveon. I've always been a huge Giveon fan. I think he has one of the silkiest voices in music. This is one of the best R&B albums to come out this year. It's just so amazing. Go listen to it. And the last honorable mention, the last album to not make it on the top 10 list, Let God Sort 'Em Out by Clipse. Please do not come for me. I'm sorry. Like I said, albums being off of this list do not mean that they are bad albums. This album is really good. I think the height of my Pusha T fandom was like in 2022, and I wasn't super knowledgeable about Clipse or Malice before this year, but seeing how excited everyone was for their return and kind of tapping back into that person I was back then made me really excited to listen to it. And I was not disappointed at all. I think this was a great triumphant return for the duo, and I think I was very pleasantly surprised that a lot of Malice's verses were my favorites on that album. I think the main reason that it's off of this list is that I just didn't find myself like listening to it a lot more or like remembering it a lot, and seeing all the stuff that they've done after this album, like perform at the Vatican and just have a really successful tour, is really cool to see. It hurts me to my core to not have this album on this list, but there's just been so much good music that's come out this year, it had to get taken off. And again, that's another one that's a lot of people's album of the year, so very sorry. It was very good, but we gotta keep moving now. At number 3, I have Showbiz by Mike. Mike was an artist that released multiple projects this year, but it was a pretty clear-cut answer which one I was gonna choose from. Showbiz is amazing. It's so full of life, full of memories, full of recollection, and just full of accomplishment from struggles that he's been through. Mike is one of my favorite artists of all time. He's very emotional, he's very personable, and you can feel every emotion that he's getting across in these songs. It's just so amazing. Not to mention, this album is entirely self-produced under his producer moniker DJ Black Power, and he just has this really like funky and interesting way of producing music for himself that I can't find replicated anywhere else. It's very hard to put into words, but it's really good. This was another album that seeing it live amplified the effects of it for me. I got to see him in Fort Worth, and it was just such a beautiful performance. Seeing the emotion that you've only been able to listen to in music is such an interesting experience, and I think it amplified this album for me a lot. And speaking of showbiz, this brings me to my last award of the night, Best Physical Release. That also goes to Showbiz by Mike. Any of the 10K global physical releases for this year would have been a shoo-in for this award. Their physical media is amazing, and I've talked about it ad nauseum, but all the Showbiz ones are just so cool. My favorite was a CD that was made to look like a test run or like a final draft of the album. And the album cover for the CD was the actual picture that the streaming services album cover was inspired by. So I just thought that was a really cool touch, and a lot of the inserts in there are just really cool as well. It's beautiful. It's so amazing. Such a beautiful album, but we have 2 more to get to, so let's keep going. The hardest battle fought in this list was the battle between the number 1 and number 2 spots. I could not get for the life of me an answer on which album I should put in the number 1 and 2 spots. To me, both of these albums were ones I had been listening to all year long since they had released. Like, they're my most listened to albums of last year. I'd seen both of them live. I had really appreciated the work that the artists had put into these albums, but I think I finally got an answer, and I think it might surprise some people. At the number 2 spot, I have Revenge Seekers by Jane Remover. Jane Remover was another artist that had multiple releases this year. They released a more rock/shoegaze inspired album on their side project Venturing. And for a little bit I was debating which of those albums to put on this list, but I think Revenge Seekers is pretty clearly the winner for me. Revenge Seekers is bonkers. It is an absolutely insane album from a technical standpoint and from just a listener standpoint. This album is just full on balls to the walls, like jumping up and down craziness. for its entire runtime, except for maybe a few songs, but majority of the time, it's insane. Again, an entirely self-produced album that just shows to the technical abilities of Jane Remover, who is, in my opinion, a generational producer. But it's just such an insane project that connected with me personally. I really love how Dariacore sounds. That's what the genre of the album has been dubbed. A lot of the little like video game sounds and Easter eggs that were found throughout this album are really cool, but it's like addicting, this production and how this album sounds. I saw Jane perform last year while she was opening for JPEG Mafia, and that was before any of these songs had released. So I saw her open for Turnstile this year, and I don't even know like how to properly get my thoughts across. This was just such an amazing album. And it's not just the production that's amazing, the lyrics of this album are really good, and like I said, at times, Jane gets really personal and really emotional, and gets all of these thoughts that she's had out. But I've also described this album, and in comparison to the other one that Jane released, Revenge Seekers is the very like manic, hyper, insane side of Jane Remover, where Venturing is the very like emotional, depressive, at the end of it all side of Jane Remover. But the fact that both of these albums released like within a month of each other is insane, but Revenge Seekers is just so incredible. Don't listen to the hate, listen to it if you haven't. But now, let's get to my number one spot. At number one, my favorite album of 2025, I have Alfredo 2 by Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist. I'm telling you, it was such an insane battle for that number one spot, but Alfredo 2 is just otherworldly in my opinion. Alfredo was my favorite album of 2020, and whenever rappers and producers form a duo and come back to make another album, a lot of the time I get really excited about it. But I was very weary of Alfredo 2 just because of like, I guess my preconceived notion of singles with it being called Alfredo 2. A lot of times sequels don't match up to their predecessors, but that was absolutely not the case with Alfredo 2. They went insane on this album. Freddie Gibbs has worked with some of the most amazing producers in the game, but I truly think that The Alchemist understands him better than anybody else. The beats on this album complement Freddie so well, whether it's the more upbeat, drum-focused ones like Lemon Pepper Steppers, to the really jazzy ones like Ensalada, to the really like swanky and funky ones like on Lavish Habits. You would think that The Alchemist could read Freddie Gibbs' mind. It's insane. And with Freddie's performance, you think that he could read The Alchemist's too. Freddie is proving on this album that he's at the top of his game. I think some of my favorite performances from Freddie come from this album, which again is insane because he has such an extensive discography. But it's truly incredible to see him support this production to the extent that he does. It's so beautiful. And again, the live performance of this album was insane. Freddie did such a good job. While which Alfredo album is better is a bit of a hard question, I think is Alfredo 2 the album of 2025 is a question I can answer pretty definitively now. Yes. From performance to production to features, this album is what I'm going to associate 2025 with the most, and what I'm going to be coming back to the most. It's incredible. And there you have it, best albums of 2025. We went through the entire list, we threw out some new awards, and we gave some honorable mentions to some truly incredible albums that I just couldn't fit on this list. If you think my list was good, if you think it was really bad, or I missed your favorite, please let me know in the comments what your list is. And please stay tuned for next week where I go through the top 10 songs of 2025. You may be asking why I split them up into two different videos. I just really want to give the songs of 2025 a much more in-depth conversation than what would have been on the same video as the top 10 albums. There's a lot of songs that came out in EPs or just on their own that didn't make their way onto the albums list that I really want to give their spotlight towards. So stay tuned for that next week, but for now, that's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you later. Goodbye.